So hi, my name is Jose Castellon and I'm actually the owner of Chaps Hardware. I am a computer seller here in Vegas and I just wanted to give a quick guide to getting a used PC. To get started, I'm gonna put a picture of three price ranges ranging from 400 to 9 to 600, 600 to 900 and 900 to 1100. And each of these three ranges would have three CPU recommendations, three GPU recommendations, and then each one will be divided and split between the three. Now, before I attach the photo, I would like to give some disclaimers. So these are just some quick prices to give you an idea on the market. These aren't the absolute best deals, but these will at least give you something to work with and something to aim for. To cut the suspense, I'll attach the photo right here. And then another disclaimer is that the prices I go for as a reseller will be relatively lower than these ranges. So as resellers, we have a better understanding of the market and we know how to get the right deal, or in other words, really lowball. Because if I'm being honest, that's a big part of what I do. That's really the truth behind the way I make money in my business here. Now, another disclaimer I would like to give is that if you're looking for the absolute best deal, you'll likely have to put in a little bit of work. Well, yeah, a little bit of work and some time researching components and this and that. And another thing to consider is that there's always a chance of getting scammed in the used marketplace. But if you follow these tips I'll give you, and you should be fine. Now, to start off, if you're looking to buy a used PC, I would recommend asking the seller if they're open to letting you test out the build in person. Now, this would require them to have a setup, which most people have no problem with. But if you do find a case where they're kind of iffy, they're saying, "Oh, I'm concerned about my safety. I don't let anybody in my house, this and that." I would try to stay away from that unless like the seller has really great reviews or things of that nature. Because off rip, just off that question alone, if they say, "Yeah, you're more than welcome to stop by," you're already filtering like a bunch of people that are sketchy and this and that. And then from there, when you actually get to their house, you meet them, you get to know people. And it's a skill, but over time, you kind of see who's being a bit weird about their computer, because little things start popping up as you talk to them. And then it's almost like they had no idea or some weird stuff. But anyways, another tip after you get to the house, I'm gonna also make this as quick and simple as possible. Um, you could always get a USB drive. Now with these USB drives, you could install three programs I would recommend just to get started. And these are honestly the main ones I use. There are other ones, but if I don't see any issues with these three programs, I'm kind of, let's say, 80% sure the computer will be fine. So the three programs are Cinebench R23 and FurMark. And the last one is Unigen 4.0, Heaven 4.0. And then Cinebench, they're all three of these programs are free, so don't worry about pricing or anything. You just need the drive, of course. They're about, let's say, combined maximum of the three programs are probably 10 gigabytes, so that's really all you need. So Cinebench is a program you'll use to test the CPU, and then after you launch the program, the screen is going to say multi-core or single core test. You click the multi-core, let it run for 5 minutes. Then if you want to do a single core, you can, but I usually don't. And then after you test that, you're gonna get a score. You look up online on your phone like a score to the CPU that it has, and then compare it. If the score is within 1,000 range plus or minus, then it's fine. Most of the time, it's usually a bunch of settings or windows. There's a lot of little factors that change that score, but I'm not gonna get too into it. Now the next one is FurMark. FurMark is relatively straightforward. You hit test on the 1080p. or whatever monitor they might have, and then you just let it run. The test lasts probably like a minute, but I would say let it run for like 3 to 4 minutes, and then that basically you're not gonna get a score out of it. It does give you a score, but it's really hard to compare because nobody uses it. It's really just to get the GPU toasty, and so after you get that, you're gonna get a degrees, and then you're gonna get a maximum temperature or minimum temperature. It's gonna keep showing you actively. Then you look up on Google, highest temp. Let's say it's a RTX 4080. Highest temp for an RTX 4080 or average temp under load, and then it's gonna give you a score. And then if it's somewhere between within like 5 degrees plus or minus, you're most of the time fine. And then you move on to the next one, and then Unigen 4.0. You'll let it run. That one takes around, I think, 10 minutes or so. I could be wrong. I never really tracked it, but the benchmark alone goes through like 26 stages. It's just you just let it run, and then if the computer doesn't crash, doesn't do anything, the actual program will stutter. That's completely fine. And then after it runs, it's gonna give you a score. You get that score. You look it up. Now you're gonna look up the GPU, but the CPU does affect it a little bit. So try to find something with the CPU and GPU, and then find Unigen 4.0, Heaven 4.0. Compare the results, and then if they're relatively similar, by relative I'm talking about like 1,000, 2,000. It also depends on CPU. So try to find something with the same CPU and GPU, and then go from there. But those are the three programs, and after you compare, if everything checks out, you could then have relative confidence that it's going to be all right. There's no major issues with it. Now, of course, let's say 1 out of 5 computers that I purchase have some type of issue. Now, luckily, with these programs, you could get rid of the major ones. Like you can see, oh, it's not CPU and GPU, which are the most expensive ones. Usually, it's some other little problems. Like, for example, a big part of what I do is cleaning them out. Let's say there's something wrong with RGB fans on there or cable management. That's something you could just go in and fix yourself. The RAM is another thing. Every once in a while, you'll encounter that they're bad or this and that. But those are the tips I have for now. Now, before you purchase, just make sure that, like I said earlier, if you can, make sure the guy is kind and nothing too sketchy, right? And then after that, you can make the deal with him, take the computer home, and get right into whatever you like to do with it. And so those are the tips I would like to give. That's the photo with the parts is a very vague pricing, very vague pricing because computers can vary a lot. If you have looked into it, could vary in storage, RAM, cases, power supply, etc., etc. So I would recommend just look at that framework and use it as a very vague guide, but you will have to do some research to get a good deal on a computer. Thank you for watching.